Missing a flight, hey story drivers. Ever felt that stomach-dropping, heart-stopping, world-tilting moment when you realize you've messed up? Royally messed up? Like watching your plane become a tiny dot in the sky messed up? Well, today, we're diving into a story all about that feeling. It's about plans, panic, and the peculiar things that happen when you're supposed to be 30,000 feet in the air. Stick around, because you won't believe how one man's very important trip almost didn't happen. And hey, if you love stories that make you laugh, gasp, and maybe even learn a little English along the way, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next adventure. Now, let's get into it. Missing a flight. The Ballad of Barnaby Button. Barnaby Button was a man of simple pleasures and meticulous plans. His socks were always paired, his pencils were always sharpened, and his toast was always buttered right to the very edge. So, when Barnaby booked a flight to the annual International Marvels of Miniature Modeling Convention, a trip he'd been dreaming about for precisely 364 days, he had a plan. A very good plan. Or so he thought. His flight was at 10 a.m., not too early, not too late, perfect. He'd set 3 alarms, one on his phone, one on his old-fashioned bedside clock, the kind with the really loud bells, and one on his tablet. He called this his triple failsafe alarm system. What could possibly go wrong? The evening before, Barnaby laid out his clothes. A freshly ironed shirt, comfortable trousers, and his special travel shoes that were easy to slip on and off at security. He packed his suitcase with the precision of a surgeon, his miniature models nestled safely in custom-made foam beds. His ticket was printed and in a special plastic wallet. His passport was in the same wallet. He even packed a small bag of his favorite lemon sweets for the journey. He was, in his own words, supremely prepared. The first sign of trouble came in a dream. Barnaby dreamt he was trying to build a miniature Eiffel Tower out of cooked spaghetti, and the spaghetti kept wilting. He woke up with a start, a thin film of sweat on his forehead. He glanced at his phone. 3:17 a.m. Too early. He sighed, adjusted his pillow, and tried to go back to sleep, the image of droopy spaghetti haunting him. When he next opened his eyes, sunlight was streaming through a gap in his curtains. Beautiful, bright, cheerful sunlight. Too cheerful. He smiled, stretched, and then his blood ran cold. He looked at his phone. 8:47 a.m. 8:47 a.m. His triple failsafe alarm system had failed, or rather, he had failed it. The phone. Alarm? He'd set it for p.m. instead of a.m. The tablet? It had run out of battery overnight. And the old-fashioned bedside clock? In his spaghetti-induced sleepy state, he must have slapped the snooze button so hard it had turned the alarm off. Completely panic, a cold and spiky creature grabbed Barnaby by the throat. "No, no, 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 no," he whispered, leaping out of bed. His carefully laid-out clothes looked back at him almost mockingly. He threw them on, not bothering with the usual precision. His hair, usually neatly combed, looked like a startled bird's nest. He grabbed his suitcase and the plastic wallet. Lemon sweets? No time for lemon sweets. He fumbled for his keys, nearly tripping over his cat, Marmalade, who looked up at him with an expression of mild surprise. "Not now, Marmalade." Barnaby yelped, which was unfair. as Marmalade had done nothing but observe. He burst out of his front door and looked frantically down the street for a taxi. His plan had included a pre-booked taxi for 7:30 a.m. That taxi was long gone, probably already on its third journey of the day. Miraculously, an empty taxi was just turning the corner. Barnaby waved his arms like a man trying to signal a distant ship. "Airport, quick!" he panted, throwing his suitcase onto the back seat and jumping in. "International terminal. And please drive like the wind is chasing you." The taxi driver, a cheerful man named Stan, seemed to enjoy a challenge. "Right you are, Governor. Catching. A flight, are we? Important one?" "Extremely important," Barnaby said, clutching his plastic wallet. "The International Marvels of Miniature Modeling Convention. I have a presentation on historically accurate Viking longboats, scale 1.200. Stan whistled. "Fancy. My nephew's into model trains. Got a whole room dedicated to it, little tiny people and everything." Ordinarily, Barnaby would have loved to discuss miniature models, but now, every second felt like an hour. He kept looking. At his watch. 9:03 a.m. The airport was a good 40 minutes away on a good day. Today, with his luck, there would probably be a parade of snails holding up traffic. "Is there any way to go faster, Stan?" Barnaby asked, his voice a little squeaky. "Doing my best, mate," Stan said, expertly weaving through a bit of traffic. "Don't you worry, we'll get you there. Seen it all, I have. People running later than you, trying to catch flights to their own weddings. Now that's pressure." Barnaby tried to take a deep breath. Stan was right. Panicking wouldn't make the taxi go faster. He looked out the window. They were making decent progress. Maybe, just maybe, he could still make it. The check-in desk for his airline usually closed 60 minutes before the flight. That meant 9 a.m. Oh, he was already past that. But online check-in, he'd checked in online. He just needed to drop his bag and get through security. Some airlines kept bag drop open until 45 minutes before. 9:15 a.m. Hope flickered. They hit a patch of traffic. A small accident up ahead. 2 cars looking very sheepish with their bumpers touching like shy teenagers. "Ah, typical," Stan sighed. "Hold tight, Governor. We'll find a way around." Stan, true to his word, took a series of complicated back streets Barnaby didn't even know existed. Barnaby was bounced around like a sock in a washing machine. His carefully packed miniature models, he prayed they were okay. Finally, at 9:28 a.m., they pulled up to the international terminal. Barnaby threw a wad of cash at Stan, probably too much, but he didn't care. Grabbed his suitcase, and sprinted. "Thanks, Stan, you're a lifesaver." "Good luck with the tiny Vikings." Stan called after him. Barnaby ran into the terminal. It was vast, noisy, and confusing. People milled about everywhere. He scanned the departure boards, his eyes darting wildly. Flight BA-247 to Frankfurt. Gate 42. Boarding. Boarding. Not last call. Not gate closing, but boarding. There was still a chance. He spotted the signs for bag drop for British Airways. There was a queue. A long, winding queue. It looked like a snake that had swallowed a small elephant. Barnaby groaned. He joined the end of the line, jigging from one foot to the other. 9:32 a.m. The woman in front of him had 3 enormous suitcases, a pushchair, and a small child who was methodically trying to stick a lollipop to her mother's leg. Barnaby felt a surge of despair. "Excuse me," he said to the man behind the counter, when he finally reached it, gasping for breath. "Flight BA247 to Frankfurt. I'm checked in online, just need to drop this bag." He heaved his suitcase onto the scales. The man, whose name badge read Kevin, happy to help, did not look particularly happy. He typed slowly on his keyboard, his brow furrowed. "BA247. Ah, yes. Mr. Button? Yes, that's me," Barnaby said, hope surging. Kevin looked up. "I'm afraid bag drop for this flight closed at 9:20 a.m., sir." Barnaby's heart sank. But I'm here. The flight is still boarding. Can't you just make an exception? It's for the International Marvels of Miniature Modeling Convention." He knew he sounded desperate. Kevin gave him a look that was part pity, part rules are rules. "I'm very sorry, sir. Once bag drop is closed, we can't accept any more luggage for that flight. It's a security and logistics issue." "But what about my models?" Barnaby wailed, gesturing at his suitcase. "My Vikings, they need to get to Frankfurt." "You could try to see if the cabin crew will allow it as hand luggage, but it looks a bit large, and there are weight restrictions," Kevin said unhelpfully, "and you'd still need to get through security very, very quickly." Barnaby looked at his suitcase. It was definitely too big for hand luggage. His beautiful, meticulously packed suitcase. He made a split-second decision. The models were important, but getting himself on that plane was more important. He could worry about the models later. Maybe Stan could bring them on the next flight. Unlikely. "Okay," he said, a new, slightly mad glint in his eye. "Forget the bag. I'll go without it. Just tell me, how do I get to gate 42? Kevin looked surprised. "Through security, then follow the signs. It's a fair walk, sir, and you really need to hurry." He scribbled something on Barnaby's printed boarding pass. "Good luck." Barnaby grabbed his plastic wallet containing his passport and boarding pass, abandoning his suitcase by the check-in desk like a soldier leaving a fallen comrade. He felt a pang of guilt, but there was no time. He ran towards security. The security queue was even worse than the bag drop queue. It snaked, back and forth, a river of anxious travelers. Barnaby looked at his watch. Nice, 40 a.m. He could hear the announcements. "Last call for flight BA247 to Frankfurt, gate 42. "Excuse me, pardon me, terribly sorry, urgent flight," Barnaby muttered, trying to weave his way through the crowd. He got a few annoyed glares, but mostly people were too absorbed in their own travel stress to care. He finally reached the front. Trays, laptops out. Liquids in a clear bag. He'd forgotten about that, but thankfully had no liquids except his now absent lemon sweets. Shoes off. Belt off. He fumbled, his hands shaking. He put his wallet and passport in a tray, his shoes in another. He walked through the scanner. Beep. "Sir, please step to the side," a stern-faced security officer said. "Oh, for goodness sake," Barnaby cried. "What now? Did you leave anything in your pockets, sir?" Barnaby patted his pockets. Keys, his house keys. He'd forgotten to put them in the tray. He pulled them out, red-faced, and put them in a small tray to be scanned separately. He went through the scanner again. This time, silence. Relief washed over him, quickly followed by renewed panic as he remembered the time. He grabbed his belongings, shoved his passport and boarding pass back into his wallet, and sprinted, barefoot, towards the signs for gates 40-60. His special travel shoes were still in the tray. No time. He'd run barefoot if he had to. He saw a cleaner who pointed towards a sign he'd missed. Thank you. Gate 42 was, of course, at the very, very end of the terminal. It felt like miles away. Barnaby ran. People stared. A small child pointed and shouted, "Mummy, that man has no shoes!" Barnaby didn't care. He could see it now, gate 42, and the sign still said boarding. He skidded to a halt at the gate desk, gasping for air, his hair wild, his shirt untucked, his feet aching. 9:52 a.m. 2 gate agents were there. One was on the phone. The other, a kind-looking woman with a name badge that read Sarah, looked up. "Frankfurt?" Barnaby gasped, holding out his boarding pass and passport. "BA247? Am I too late?" Sarah looked at his pass, then at her screen. She gave him a small, sympathetic smile. "You're Mr. Button? We've been calling you." She looked down the jet bridge. "You are incredibly lucky, Mr. Button. They are just about to close the doors. Go, go, go." A wave of euphoria, so powerful it almost knocked him off his shoeless feet, washed over Barnaby. He'd made it. He actually made it. He wanted to hug Sarah. He wanted to hug himself. "Thank you," he choked out, and then he ran. He ran down the jet bridge, the plastic wallet clutched in his hand like a sacred relic. He could see the entrance to the plane. A flight attendant stood there looking impatient. "Mr. Button?" she asked, her eyebrow raised. "We were about to leave without you, and, where are your shoes?" Barnaby just grinned, a wild, breathless grin. "It's a long story," he panted. "A very long story." He stepped onto the plane. The doors hissed shut behind him. He found his seat, collapsed into it, and started to laugh. He had no luggage, no lemon sweets, no shoes, and his miniature Vikings were probably causing a security alert back at the check-in desk. But he was on the plane. He was going to the convention. A fellow passenger, an elderly lady with kind eyes, leaned over. "Rough morning, dear?" she asked. Barnaby, still catching his breath, looked at her. "You have no idea," he said, and then he began to tell her the whole story, starting with the spaghetti dream. After all, he had a few hours to kill, and it wasn't. Every day you outsmarted 3 alarm clocks, a chatty taxi driver, airport queues, and the relentless march of time itself. He even found himself looking forward to explaining to the convention organizers why his award-winning Viking longboats hadn't quite made the journey. Perhaps he could do a presentation on the perils of oversleeping instead. It would certainly be a story worth telling. Later, much later, after the convention, where he improvised a surprisingly popular talk on disaster management for the dedicated modeler, using borrowed pens and napkins to illustrate his points, Barnaby would retrieve his suitcase. His models, thankfully, were intact. He even bought a new pair of shoes at the airport, very sensible ones. He also bought a new alarm clock, a very, very loud one, and he always double-checked if it was set for AM or PM, because some lessons, especially those learned while running barefoot through an airport terminal, tend to stick. Key vocabulary, repeated throughout. Flight. A journey made by air, especially in a plane. Airport. A place where aircraft regularly take off and land with buildings for passengers and cargo. Ticket. A piece of paper or card that gives the holder a certain right, especially to enter a place, travel by public transport, or participate in an event. Passport. An official document issued by a government, certifying the holder's identity and citizenship, and entitling them to travel under its protection to and from foreign countries. Suitcase. A portable rectangular container for carrying clothes and other belongings when traveling. Alarm clock. A clock that can be set to sound at a particular time to wake someone up. Taxi. A car with a driver that you pay to take you somewhere. Check-in. The process of reporting your arrival at an airport or hotel. Bag drop. A place at an airport where you can leave your luggage to be put on a flight after you have checked in. Security. The procedures and measures taken to protect a place or to control access to it. Gate. The area in an airport where passengers board their aircraft. Boarding. The process of passengers getting onto a ship or aircraft. Queue. A line of people or vehicles waiting their turn for something. Also known as a line in American English. Delay, delayed. When something happens later than it should. Missed. A flight. To arrive too late to get on the plane. Terminal. A building at an airport where passengers arrive and depart. Luggage. Baggage. Bags and suitcases that you take with you when you are traveling. Urgent. Requiring immediate action or attention. Panic. Sudden, uncontrollable fear or anxiety. Convention. A large meeting or conference, especially of members of a particular profession or organization. Wow, what a morning for poor Barnaby, right? Running shoeless through an airport. Definitely a story to tell. I think we can all relate to that feeling of panic when things don't go according to plan. What did you think of Barnaby's adventure? Have you ever missed a flight or had a crazy travel story? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to read them. And if you enjoyed this story and want to improve your English in a fun and engaging way, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps our channel grow. Don't forget to share it with your friends who might need a laugh or are learning English too. Most importantly, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you're the first to know when we post new stories. We're Story-Driven English, and we believe learning should be an adventure. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. Bye for now.